We're back.
We're back. We're we're
So
alive
we're alive. We're
and back.
live. And prior to this going live, we were talking about what discipline meant.
Right.
So, what does discipline mean to you? And the debate we were having had to do with ice cream. Take the
Right.
floor.
And this has come about because of our coffee meeting early morning with Andrew. So shout out to Andrew because
Yes.
we had this argument in the truck.
So tell us about your ice cream and your discipline with
this
ice cream.
this disagreement between you and I. Yeah, so I'm trying to explain what discipline is to my 6-year-old grandson. Okay? And how do you explain it if you don't practice it on your own? So, one of my weaknesses is ice cream. I love ice cream, always have, and I geared towards the coffee flavor ice creams. And so, I know they're not necessarily good for me because they have probably a lot of sugar. I try to buy organic, this, that, whatever. But so, what is discipline? So, what happened the other day is that I had bought, a pint or whatever of ice cream, coffee, ice cream, but it wasn't organic and I could tell it was sweet and it was in the fridge. And I ended up throwing it away when it was halfway full or halfway empty because I know that if I sit down and I have one little scoop, I'm going to have more, and then I go back for more, and I said I don't have the discipline to limit myself and control myself. So what did I do? I threw it away. So is that discipline? You said it is, and I say it's not. Now
Right.
you say it's a form of discipline.
I'm saying it's discipline to a certain level of discipline because you know that you struggle with that, and instead of keeping it available to you, you got rid of it. Another form of discipline would be knowing that it's a weakness of yours, so when you go to the grocery store, you don't buy it.
I don't.
That's a form of discipline to me. It's like you know it's available, you have the ability to buy it, you don't buy it. It's a form of discipline, a level of discipline.
Okay.
Having it in your home, in your fridge, and not eating it, well, why would you even buy it if you're not gonna eat it? But let's say you had it in your fridge and you're not eating it, that's a very high level of discipline. But why even tempt yourself with that if you know you could just dump it or just not buy it? And I was arguing that it is still discipline. It's just maybe you're saying that it's not, right?
I'm saying it's not because you still fall.
Yeah.
I bought it because I wanted to eat it, but I don't want to eat it all at once. So I want to have the discipline to be able to go to the fridge, get a little bit, eat a little bit, and then know that it's there and not go back for second, thirds, and fourths. Okay? So, and by the way, we're talking about ice cream, but this goes for anything, whether it be,
Sure.
a glass of wine or hard liquor
It's
or anything else that, you can't seem to have enough of, right?
so would you say it goes hand in hand with self-control?
I think so. So I have my own definition.
Yeah.
You looked up a few definitions and
I looked up a few. One of them on Merriam-Webster. Kids' definition says it's strict training that corrects or strengthens mental ability or moral character. That was one of them. Another one, just Googling it, the practice of training people to obey rules or code of behavior using punishment to correct.
yeah,
And then another one, controlled, gained by enforcing obedience or order. That's like disciplining somebody. But basically, it has to do with controlling behavior, right?
yeah, well, I have my own definition, and
Yeah,
it
what
was
is
very
it-
difficult to explain it to a 5-year-old or 6-year-old.
What does it mean to you?
To me, it means controlled that you gain by strengthening your mind. Okay? And I don't have it. So, for example, in the case of ice cream, I knew the ice cream was there. So every time I remember it, I would go and have some ice cream. I really didn't need it. I just remember that it was in the fridge, so I went for it. right? And then the other thing that happens is that I serve myself a little bit, and then I find myself going back for seconds. Okay? I think that true discipline at its core is, you know that the ice cream is in the refrigerator, you go, you serve yourself a minimal amount just to satisfy your urge for, because you love it, and then you close the fridge and you don't go back for seconds, and then some other day you come back for a little bit more. And that was the case with me. I would have seconds and thirds, even though there were small portions. Okay, so I don't have the discipline.
But wouldn't you say that's discipline, that you had only small portions? Because you could have eaten the whole thing in one day.
Yeah, and then you feel guilty about it all for a week.
You feel guilty. Yeah, you could feel guilty. And that's one thing that, see, food, my wife has opened my eyes to this world, which I didn't understand. I always thought it had to do with discipline. There are other perspectives on food. For example, there are chemicals being released. The moment you have that ice cream and your brain tastes that sugar, you taste that sugar and the flavor of the ice cream, something is going on, a chemical reaction in your brain that maybe, one food for thought, no pun intended, is that it's now not just having to do with willpower and discipline, but there's a chemical reaction occurring in your brain that's making you want to have more. That's another element that I never took into account. I always thought it was just, willpower and discipline. But no, there's something else occurring when you're having that ice cream, or you're craving that ice cream. Your body and your mind is, and I know willpower, and you can try and curve it and things like that, but it's not, there's other elements into play, is what the world of some views in the world of food and nutrition. Those are just it's just another angle, that it may not only be your willpower.
Okay.
There may be other things into play.
Okay. Well, with all due respect, okay, I understand that. But I believe that the mind is the most powerful thing on this universe, okay? And it can be easily demonstrated, okay? I think that we possess, all of us, the most sophisticated computer ever created in the entire universe. And that is our mind, our brain, okay? So you can take, as far as I'm concerned, I understand that. And scientifically it can be proven that there are chemicals that are being released to, entice the body and mind to have more, okay? I understand that. But I take all of that and I throw it in the trash, because I think that willpower can override that. Now listen for a second, because I know you want to talk, and you're gonna get your spiel, because I'm not agreeing with you. I think that the mind is powerful enough to block all of those senses and all that release of chemicals. I really do. Now, does it take a great deal? And maybe I'm being naive. Because if you talk to someone that maybe is addicted to drugs, they're going to hear this and say, you're full of baloney, Pablo. Maybe I am. I don't know the answers, okay?
No, you're speaking from your experience.
Believe. I don't have it. I don't have that level of discipline.
Right. So you're speaking from your experience in terms of you think
what I think.
That
And we've said it, opinions are like noses. Everybody's got a nose, so everybody's got an opinion, okay?
Right.
But take that guy that's writing books for children now. What's his name? That Navy SEAL. You bought a book from
Jocko Willink.
Jocko Willink? Okay. Yeah. I think that when I listen to some of his podcasts, he seems to have a tremendous high level of discipline.
Right.
Okay? So I think that potentially he could curve his mind, and those chemical releases and stuff like that, like dopamine or whatever.
Well, he probably doesn't get the ice cream. So that's his level of discipline, not having one and only one. That would be my guess. I don't know. I don't know if he eats ice cream or not.
I think that the highest...
He probably control. He knows it's bad. Like, it's bad for his body, and he's all about his physique and his that. I would, and his mental strength. I would say he probably does not have the ice cream, but I don't know.
You mean he doesn't buy it?
He doesn't buy it. He doesn't have it in his fridge. He doesn't even maybe have a
the
spoonful.
Urge. Right.
Because if you have a spoonful now, you just introduce the substance to your body, and your body's going to do other things aside from the mental willpower that you have, and it's going to crave more.
But I think that
Sugar.
the brain is such a powerful instrument that it can block everything else.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's first of, each individual is different.
Yes.
So maybe one person is able to have one spoon and stop, and another person...
Well, test yourself.
Well, another person is not able to, or struggles with that because there are other elements into play.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just that, food, sugar, certain things can be extremely addictive.
Alcohol.
Can be extremely...
A glass of wine.
Yeah. And they can be extremely addictive.
Unfortunately, drugs.
And there's other elements into play other than simply willpower. Is one perspective. I'm not saying that I 100% believe in that or anything, but there's more to it on why. So I think if you could just not buy it, or buy it and have it every once in a while, and that works for you, that's perfectly a great level of discipline.
Well, I love ice cream, and I haven't bought ice cream in months, okay? But I don't consider that to be discipline, because when I break down and I told my wife, okay, we're going to treat ourselves. This came out really nice, let's treat ourselves. And we bought a little thing of ice, and it's silly. But the point, folks, is that you can carry this over to many other serious things in your life, and then we're talking about discipline for fun. Is that okay over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, how you do one thing is, some people say, is how you do everything.
Right. So I don't think that not buying the ice cream is a form, maybe it's a form of discipline, but I don't consider it true discipline, because I've had the urge, but I don't have the ice cream in the fridge, so I can't eat it. That's pretty good.
That's great.
But if I did have it, I should be able to go to the fridge and take one little scoop and be fine with that. But I'm not. I'm weak. I'm not sitting here talking about discipline because I have it,
We all have our weaknesses.
Yes.
Because you are disciplined enough to not finish it all in one day.
I haven't bought it in months, and
Yeah.
it was there for a while, but then it was halfway, and then I threw it away. Perfectly fine.
How about this? How about this perspective?
Crazy.
You understand your body and your weaknesses, which I also, with sweets,
Well,
you understand your weaknesses enough to say, I'm just not going to buy it because it doesn't work for me. Because you end up getting more and more and more. So
that doesn't work for my wife. She wants to have it.
Wouldn't you say that's a form of discipline? To understand your body enough to say, hey, if I buy it, I will struggle with it. Let me just not buy it.
Right, but then I preclude, let's say, my partner in crime from, she was looking for a little ice cream the other day, and she says, where's the coffee ice cream? I said, I threw it away. And she looked at me like, you did what? Was it bad? No, it was perfectly fine, but I threw it away. And she says, but it was half full. And I go, yeah. And that didn't go down well.
Yeah. I hear you. It's difficult. And I think that, it's understanding your body, what works for you, and your mental discipline. And some of us, the same. And they say that I remember my good buddy Felipe says, desire enters through the eyes. So I would be at a restaurant and I see somebody eating a certain plate or drinking a certain drink, and all of a sudden, like, ooh, that looks really good.
Well, Felipe is absolutely right. I go to a restaurant and I sit down, and then I see someone that has been there before and order, and then the waiter comes by with this beautiful looking dish, and I Always. What was that dish that you just put on that table?
Yeah.
Oh, is this and that? Where's that on the menu? And sure enough,
Sure.
I end up
Yeah.
buying that.
Yeah.
You know.
So
And
we have
and
to have control, self-control, and discipline. And I agree with you that it carries into other forms of your life. So if
right,
you can
because we're
have
talking
it,
about ice cream, but
but if you can have it with ice cream, you'll have discipline with other things. Like you're extremely disciplined with your time. You're punctual. You get up at a certain time. You get things done. If you say you're gonna be there, if you tell somebody you're gonna call them back, you're really disciplined in those areas.
yes.
And so you have discipline.
Well, the way I look at that is I respect very, very much other people's time.
Yeah.
So if I say that I'm going to do something,
And your time. You respect your time.
yeah. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it because my word means everything to me. And so it's just like with that listing. I mean, it was brutal. We had like 28 showings, and the architecture of putting together all those appointments with all those people and with the tenants and the showings and the timings was brutal.
Organized.
Yeah.
Being organized is discipline.
28 showings in 3 weeks. And then you set it up and you think that it's going to work out fine, and it doesn't because this guy was late because of traffic, so we couldn't get that timing. And so,
Yeah.
all you can do is do the best that you can.
Right.
However, getting back to discipline, there is that half Japanese, half Colombian kid. What's his name?
Kenji.
Kenji. Okay? He said something that I read many years ago. He is wise beyond his years because he's a very young man. Well, he's older now, but I've been watching him when he was so young, and
Yeah.
he looked so young, and he was saying so many things that really hit my core.
Right.
And I'm going to say it in Spanish, and then we're going to translate it to English because I think I heard him say this maybe 11 years ago, and
Yeah.
it just hit me like a 2x4 over my forehead. It was just like a ton of bricks. And what he said was this. He said, La disciplina, tarde o temprano, vencerá la inteligencia. La disciplina, tarde o temprano, vencerá la inteligencia. Translated, I'll do the best I can, but he's saying discipline, sooner or later, will vencerá is overcome intelligence. Okay? So discipline, sooner or later, will overcome intelligence. Okay? And I heard that.
It's powerful.
Oh my God. Well, I've lived by that, I mean, ever since I heard him. And he was a young kid, and this is a true testament that you can learn anything from anybody because he was a very young man when he said that. It might have been 15 years ago. And so when he said, hey, listen, discipline, and this is something that the Japanese culture holds very dear to their
Right.
roots because he's very proud. I give him a lot of credit.
What I like is that he's taking the discipline that the Japanese have, and he's trying to teach the Colombians and Latin America and a lot of people too, that we can learn from the discipline that the Japanese have. Because
Correct.
discipline, sooner or later, overcomes intelligence. If you just show up every day, consistently, you do what you say you're going to do, you're on time, you're organized,
Absolutely.
you'll outperform, you'll overcome the person that is extremely smart, brilliant, let's say, but doesn't have that discipline. I think it's a great message.
It is a great
Up for
message.
debate, but I think it's a great message.
Oh, it's a great message. You can debate it all you want. I've lived it. And so he convinced me from the moment it's just one of those nuggets of gold that when you hear it, depending on where you are in your life, it just comes and penetrates you and hits you at the core, and then
changes you
it changes you.
because you begin to live your life maybe a different way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we have a very good friend, Filipino. He's also a realtor. His first name is Manny. And he told us many years ago, he's a wise man. And Manny said that you were super young. This is 20 years ago. You were super young. Paul was super young. We were at a mall, okay, in the city of Arcadia. I'll never forget it. And he told us the story where he went back and saw one of the smartest men that he ever knew, which was a classmate of his, okay?
In the Philippines?
Yeah, working in a little cubicle, okay, doing numbers or whatever, and apparently the gentleman wasn't too happy with his life, the way it had gone, but yet he was the smartest guy in Manny's school, and it's just that life didn't develop in the way it was, and Manny's very happy with his life. And according to what he was saying, he wasn't as sharp as this gentleman. So it all depends, Being, you have to have a little bit of everything, a balance in life, We were just talking to Andrew over coffee this morning that, some of the smartest people that he knows are a little bit eccentric. And they are brilliant in doing computer science and programming and this and that, but they're not all that good with people skills, and they may be even a little bit abrasive.
Right.
So I really think that there has to be a balance in life. And I think discipline is one of the ingredients that brings balance to life.
Because I was going to say, if you're disciplined...
I could be wrong.
If you're... Yeah,
this is just my opinion.
Yeah, this is just sharing. If you're disciplined, could you improve in that area of social skills? And let's say you make it a point, could you improve in that area?
I'd say yes, because anything that you have a goal towards,
you work on
and you get better every day.
I agree.
It's like playing piano.
I agree. A lot of people, just from personal experience, they say, were you always outgoing and talkative and social and this and that? Because that's maybe how they see me a little bit more now. Which everything's relative, right? There are some people that are more outgoing than me. But I don't have a problem talking to people, approaching people. I also learned that in business from, you and Mom. However, I do remember I wasn't always like that.
Well,
and
who was?
So what I'm saying is that it was something that I learned by behavioral. I saw you, I saw Mom, I saw how being in business you had to be good at social networking, all these different things, and communication. And then it was something that over time I got better at. But what I'm saying is that I wasn't like that. And I specifically remember in high school, my freshman year, I really didn't talk to anybody. I was the only one from my school that went to this high school, from my middle school that went to this high school. And I didn't know anybody other than my older brother, but they were 2 years older. And so I was extremely quiet until I started making friends in the soccer team. And then in other situations too, and there was one particular moment where it was in confirmation, I wasn't talking to anybody because I didn't know anybody and I was just quiet to myself. And then one person, once we started talking, there was a group event where they make you talk to other people and all that. And they said, "Oh, wow, I thought you were conceited. This whole time I thought you were conceited, but because you were quiet." But once they saw that I started talking and everything, they thought, "Oh, no, you seem like normal and friendly."
You seem pretty cool.
But because I was quiet, they thought that I was a conceited person. Like I was, I guess, had a...
Yeah, you never know what the other person is thinking about you.
No.
Even when you open your mouth, you have to be very careful. Sometimes, especially in business, you would be surprised. Our good friend Mike, let's say our associate broker, I talk to him a lot, and sometimes, we're saying the same thing, and yet we have differences of opinion.
Yeah.
The meaning doesn't come out the same. And
Yeah.
as you well know, I have a great deal of respect for him, and he's just, I think, one of the nicest,
Yeah,
very
communication.
responsible human being on the face of this planet. That's why he's, my associated broker, or I am
Communication
his.
is super important.
I,
And
oh,
you could be saying the same thing and not understanding,
or it's being picked up differently
or it's being picked up different.
because
Exactly.
they have different experiences.
Absolutely.
I remember,
But with discipline, you can get better, and that was what I was trying
No
to make
doubt
a
about
point at. That even though you're quiet now, or you don't have certain skills, or you struggle with ice cream, with discipline, structure, you can get better at it.
absolutely.
I believe.
I think so too. Talking about, because we're in business, we're always talking about marketing, we're in real estate, insurance, etc., right? There was a way I learned from a couple of people. That's why, who's the guy that says get a mentor and you bypass years and years and years of struggles? I don't know if it's Dan Pena or I know Patrick, but David.
There's a lot of people that
yeah.
say that though.
It might be Cardone. I think it's Jordan Peterson. Okay, but I think Patrick, but David says it too. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember for marketing, I had a guy that was top in the company, and he wasn't that sharp. He, in terms of product knowledge, he didn't know his products all that well, but he was like that. But what he was really good at was talking to people.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, I just watched him, and we were in a conference, and he was so-called, the saying goes, working the room. And he worked that room like a master.
Yeah.
And I was watching, and I'm a novice to say the least, but I realized what he was doing. And he was like a little bird going into different pockets, because people tend to form little groups of 3 or 4 or whatever, because they know each other, so they
Comfortable with each other.
comfortable with each other. So he was like a little bird flying into every pocket, like when they pollinate, he was going ding, and then he passed out cards, stayed there a few minutes, just enough to build maybe some rapport, but not enough to not be liked, because he, when you come into those little groups, you have to
be
break.
tactful.
You have to be tactful, because you're kind of breaking like a part of the chain, because they're
Conversation, maybe interrupting.
right. And so he was just, and I saw him,
You
and
were
so I
studying him.
learned from him how to work, let's say, a room, and
Yeah.
I got really good at it, I think. Of course, you learn to get better every day. You're never at your best. You always can do better.
Yeah, but you don't have a problem approaching people. And
Oh, not at all.
but one thing about that is that there are ways to do it where you do it in a good way and it's effective and you actually connect with people. But recently we went to a meeting and I noticed there was a young guy who was doing that, kept jumping, but it didn't seem like, at least my conversation with the person wasn't, there wasn't any substance. It wasn't like, they gave me a business card, they told me what they do, this and that, what blah blah blah, but there was no actual establishing of any connection or any rapport or any. It was kind of just like, I need to hit everybody in the room and give them my card, but it wasn't effective in my opinion,
Probably not.
because
Well, it wasn't effective with you.
it wasn't effective with
Okay.
me. I didn't connect to the person, and I think that this person you're speaking of, if he was getting a lot of business and he was able to effectively, let's say, enter these little groups, but actually connect with the people, not just hand out a business card.
No, you
And
should.
that's what I
if,
think
if,
that-
if that's what, nah.
I think that's where like those subtle details of like, and I think you do that well, where you're able to people remember the conversation that they had with you because you do connect with them actually as genuine. You're interested in maybe them as a people instead of just giving a business card or how can I get business from you, because that I don't think is effective.
No, it's not. Look, it's very simple. The word I should be substituted for the word we, because I should be minuscule compared to us, we, them. Okay? When you're talking about I, it doesn't fall well.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about things, if you want to do something large in life, no matter what your field is, you cannot do it alone. It is most definitely a team effort,
Right.
whether it be with family, friends, employees that you work with.
Partners,
Yes.
whatever the case.
So
Yeah.
the word I should be the smallest word in your vocabulary,
Right.
and the word us, we, together, that should be the biggest words. And so if you're self-serving,
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's having the discipline,
you're done.
since we're talking about discipline, to give more than you're trying to take. And if you can
Absolutely.
do that, even in a little interaction, give some sort of value more than trying to take. Maybe it'll be memorable. Maybe you end up it's fruitful down the road.
Well, yeah, like that I mean, I don't know how long we're doing, but that broker that called us for an insurance company, we started talking, and I asked him a couple of questions, and you heard him say, I have never had a conversation like this ever in my life. And he's in charge of acquisitions. So he's making phone calls and dropping business cards, and he's been doing it for a long, long time. And you heard the conversation. He says, this
Yeah.
is like 1 in a million. By the time we ended the conversation, which was, it lasted maybe a good 30 minutes, 28 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
He said, no, I said, it's not 1 in a million, it's 1 in 10 million. I have also never had a conversation like this.
Right.
And it ended up being very, very cool. So, if you're looking to be self-serving, you're passing out business cards because you're expecting just only something, then you are forfeiting your chances to a certain extent, I think.
I agree.
And discipline,
Cool.
it's a balance of many things, but discipline is something
constant-
I need to work on.
It's constant. I think we always have to continue to work.
I
on it.
agree.
You don't get to a level and then all of a sudden, I don't have to work on it.
That's right.
Cool.
Oh, no, not at all. All
We'll
right.
wrap it up.
Okay, thank you.
All right.